So the thing that's been on my mind this week is this concept of what I call drop-dead conservatism that has more anger than answers right now and can't adjust to or synthesize or take in the current realities and challenges that we're facing. Thinking of people like Zach Locke, I think the representative is, who said literally healthcare is a privilege, not a right, in a country where people are losing their jobs and their healthcare at alarming rates. Or the number of Republicans saying we want the president to fail, and what that means if you extrapolate out from it.
Yeah. In fact, one of the things, I've got an article coming out Monday that will point out that almost 70% of Americans are not being currently served by the private healthcare system, through private employers, by private. 42%, 43%, I just recalculated, are actually getting healthcare subsidized by the government. So we're over 40% towards government-subsidized healthcare right now.
And this economy is driving us further in that direction?
Absolutely. Today we have 650,000 more job losses.
Exactly.
Then, yes, month by month. And those people are falling into another 25%, which is growing quickly, which is the uninsured or underinsured.
Right.
And these are the people who are losing their houses.
And those costs are increasing as well. Those are the costs that get passed on to the rest of us through insurers, through the government. So it's kind of like we're already doing this in the most expensive way possible.
One of the things I'm thinking about this week about how conservatives think is I'm realizing that they don't see consequences beyond about the first order. So they see that they're not having to pay the health bills for undesirable people, which we know what that means. I mean, we know the code there. But they don't see that when those people fall through the cracks, what happens? They lose their houses and the banks fail. They lose their families, fall apart. You get drug abuse, you get delinquency, you get domestic violence. You have all these tens of millions of American families completely disintegrate because they don't have health care.
Because it's a highly individualized worldview.
Exact says what happens to you has nothing to do with what happens to me. And if my neighbor's house catches on fire because he was smoking in bed, I guess if I'm conservative, I don't want the fire department to put it out because that's a moral hazard.
Right.
My neighbor should learn not to smoke in bed.
Except that your house might catch on fire.
Exactly.
Which is why we have public fire departments.
This is what's happening in healthcare right now, like we were just saying. It's what's happening in the mortgage problem right now. And even Ben Bernanke is saying, look, we just need to keep people in their homes, for crying out loud, and not worry about who got whatever mortgage they shouldn't have. I mean, we bailed out a firm that was $30 in debt for every dollar that it had. If Bear Stearns had been Bob Smith,
they wouldn't have done that.
They wouldn't have done that.
Not in a heartbeat, no.
In a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But you take 1 million or 2 million or 6 million Bob Smiths and tell me that they're not too big to fail. Together.
But Main Street is not too big to fail.
Exactly.
Main Street America is more important.
But you have to be able to look at what's happening and look at where it doesn't fit with what you believe or what you thought was true and adjust. It's called critical thinking.
It's called critical thinking. It's something that conservatives aren't really particularly good at because people who come to the conservative worldview tend to be those who don't want to see those interconnections. We see them as children. Actually, they've done studies. You can identify them as toddlers in the sandbox because they tend not to deal with change very well even then. And so they need all this external order and structure and rules and Big Daddy watching over everything, and that's what keeps them safe. And they don't, and that keeps them. If change happens, it happens within a very structured way, and they're very comfortable with that. And in times of transformative change, the country doesn't turn to them. It turns to progressives who we tend to trust ourselves and each other and the way the world works. And our ability to shape the future, which is something else conservatives don't really trust that human beings should mess with the levers of change, or that we're going to get it right if we try.
And that's because there's a way that it has to be.
Right.
If it's not the way that it must be, as a parent of a 6-year-old, I know all about that kind of rigidity and how you have to help him transition from one thing
to
the
one bite.
From one thing,
bite.
Just try it. And it's the same. It's the same thing, really.
It is. I've often written and said, over the years a lot, that there's a lot about the conservative worldview that's very stuck in that kind of 5-6-year-old intellectual level. You also deal with a lot of magical thinking.
Right.
And the world is the way I kind of imagine that it is.
Or that there's someone, some adult grown-up
Big Daddy's going to take care of me
out there that's going to fix it anyway.
Right.
there's a lot more uncertainty involved in the reality that what we have is each other and now.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's something that needs to be fixed, we're going to have to do it.
We can trust each
and
other.
We're going to have to do it now. We're going to have to trust each other to do it because that's the only way it's ever going to get done.
We trust ourselves, our own internal resources. We trust each other. We trust our ability to solve problems. We trust the future.
And that's true of every progressive movement in the history of this country, from abolition to the feminist movement, the civil rights movement, the gay rights movement. All of them have gotten that concept that conservatives still have.
Right, and because of that, we seize the future.
Exactly.
Carpe
We
diem.
have to.
Carpe diem.
Exactly.